Hey folks, Andy here. 2015 is behind us. We're about halfway through the so-called awards season, and it's time for me to go ahead and do my 2015 year in movie review. We're going to start by going through the list. This is my tablet with the list on it. Of all the movies that I got to see in 2015, whether it was in the theater or later on DVD Blu-ray. Alright, let's give it a start. January 2nd, Woman in Black 2, Angel of Death. Now, I had seen the original Woman in Black with Daniel Radcliffe, and it really brought back my faith in Hammer films. It put Hammer films back on the map for me. It had a specific tone and a visual styling. It was a slow burn, but in a good way. It really creeped me the heck out. And the sequel, Woman in Black 2, Angel of Death, really worked out the same. There were no noticeable stars, at least no one that I recognized. That being said, it was still a very good movie, stuck with the premise of the original film, but set it maybe about 50 years later, 50 to 100, depending on the timeline of the first one. And it was kind of hard telling what the year was supposed to be in the first one. But it takes place during World War II when the bombings were going on over in England, and they were moving all the kids out to the country. So they move a group of school children out to this very same house from the first movie where the hauntings were taking place. I will say I don't know where the Angel of Death moniker that they tagged on came from. It doesn't seem to really have anything to do with the movie. And to be honest, they did neglect some of the history of the first one. They didn't really touch on the story as to why things were happening or expand on it anyway, but they definitely told a good story in the same house with the same kind of events happening, albeit this time to a group of school children and their teacher. January 30th, Project Almanac. I saw this one later streaming and then ended up buying the Blu-ray. I enjoyed it so much. Project Almanac. When I first heard about this, I was worried it was because there was another movie that came out that looked similar, called Project X, which was like a teenage party movie. But Project Almanac, I thought was going to be that take, and they just threw in time travel to make it unique. But actually, it turns out to be a really good time travel movie, and as someone that likes time travel as a concept, as a story device, as a plot, I really enjoyed this. It's also, some people get turned off of it because of the shaky cam, found footage style. I know some people don't like that style, and they've been complaining about it ever since the Blair Witch Project. But in this case, it actually, I think, makes sense. It adds to the story, especially with kind of where the story comes from. Don't know how to explain that one without revealing stuff about it. Also leaves some questions because of it. But it was a really fun movie. I would call this one the Cloverfield of time travel movies. Again, because of the found footage, but because also the style and the energy of the movie. Even when you see stuff, you don't see a whole lot of it. It's definitely enjoyable. They did it on a pretty, my understanding was it's a pretty small budget for a movie that, you would expect to have a huge science fiction budget. The way they do the time travel visually makes perfect sense. But go see it or rent it. You'll enjoy it. March 6th, Chappie. Third movie from Neil Blomkamp. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that properly, but if not, I'm sorry. Same of his basically South Africa sci-fi trilogy. The first being District 9, and then Elysium, and now Chappie. Chappie's the story of an engineer and an android that he helped to create. The engineer develops an algorithm that ends up giving the android self-awareness, consciousness. And the android gets stolen, kidnapped, how do you perceive that? By a group of, not mercenaries, not necessarily bank robbers, but they're basically thugs, gun runners, drug dealers, that kind of thing, bad people. And it's through their interactions with Chappie that they change, become better people. He becomes a good, conscious being. It's a fun movie. The special effects are on point. It looks believable even when you know something is fake, CG, and I don't know. It's not as socially relevant as, say, District 9 was, but it's not as bombastically full of itself as Elysium was. So it's a good middle ground. It's a good fun movie. Definitely go check it out, and I think you'll enjoy it. Following in a similar trend, April 10th brought us Ex Machina. Again, the story of an engineer and an android. In this case, the engineer works for a firm and is brought to the mysterious founder's home where he meets this android. And he is supposed to, in his own way, deliver the Turing test, which judges whether or not a machine can convincingly portray a human to the point that it fools the human into believing that it's conversing with another human. And the film is very artistically done. Whereas Chappie is like an action movie, android movie, Ex Machina is not so. Ex Machina is a drama straight up and down. You could have made it an alien that was learning to be human, and we would have the same story with Ex Machina. It works great. It's an enjoyable movie. I say it's probably going to be up for some awards, but I don't know that it deserves as many as it will get nominated for. May 1st, Avengers Age of Ultron. Continuing the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and obviously the sequel to the first Avengers. I believe it was Marvel's The Avengers. And in some countries, I think it was even called Avengers Assemble. But it's the Avengers in every way, shape, and form. This time, the Avengers are facing off against an android. 2015 is apparently the year of androids, which we'll see yet another before the year's done. In this case, the android is Ultron, the title character, portrayed by James Spader. Spader did his live-action acting with motion capture, face capture, and then they CG'd the character over top of him. The character looks great, even though it's not quite the same as what it looks like in the books. They've tried to make it look a little more human, I guess, which, I don't know. I think some of the changes they made it look like a little goofier than menacing, but it looked less cartoonish. So I see what they're going for. I will say, while this one I don't think was as relevant to the landscape of the superhero genre as the first Avengers was, it didn't change things. It didn't really spark this whole cinematic universe's work concept. It's every bit as enjoyable as the first one or as any other Marvel movie. They introduced the character of Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, which are the film rights to are jointly shared with Marvel and Fox. I wish they weren't. I wish Fox had no rights. We've been over this. But that's why this year that Quicksilver appeared in 2 movies, only one of which did I see. And it was Avengers Age of Ultron. And that was the Quicksilver we wanted. That's the only Quicksilver we need. No offense to Evan Peters.